stand by while I figure things out. It's just me checking it out anyways. Events. What? No, it's not. No, it's not private. Okay. All right. Oh no, don't. Okay. So hello everyone and welcome to Connect with Evie. My name is Evelyn and I'm your source for tips and tricks about every secret nook and cranny in Objectif Lune's flagship product. Today we are having a special live stream event in order to show you all the brand new things in Connect 1.5, which is also accompanied by the workflow tool version 8.5 at the same time. So we are going to take a look at each module in turn and see what the new features are. Now, while I actually do this live stream, it is interactive, so if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to go ahead and type your question in the chat, which is either on the right or below. I think it's on the right. And just ask your question, and I will answer either right away or as soon as I can. I have a list of new features to go through, and hopefully it shouldn't take more than, say, 45 minutes. Including the question period. So let's go ahead and open the software and take a look at each of these things one after the other. Now, from the welcome screen, the first new thing that we have in Connect Designer, because that's the module we're starting on, is the PDF-based print template. And this essentially will let you create a new print template using a PDF. Now, I should have prepared a little better. I don't actually have a PDF. Let me get one really quickly in order to show you. Basically, what this does is that it will take the PDF file, add it as a background, and on this background, you can add new things. So let's see. I have the Acme bill of lading here. So let me shove that on my desktop and show you. Right, so paste on here and open this up. All right, great. So that should have opened up. Ooh, my first live stream ever, and look at what's happening. That is great. So let me take this. Okay, so I'm going to take something else completely and show it to you. Right, okay. So this is one of the small features too, so it's a bit funny. So the template adjusts to the size of the PDF and essentially will create one page inside of your print context for each of the pages in your PDF. So whatever the type of file it is. So this is kind of like the Enhance with PDF feature that we had in the Planet Press suite or Planet Press Design version 7. It achieves the same thing. On top of this, you can add new barcodes, and you can add new data, and you can OMR, and you can do whatever. This is very useful to extend an existing PDF with just a small amount of data. Now, speaking of barcodes, there's a couple of new features in regards to these barcodes. So let me just shove one in here, go into preview mode, and show you a couple of things. Now, first of all, in the preview, you can now move the barcode from one side to the other. You can basically remove it, which was not possible before. When we right-click and go into barcodes, there is a couple of new options here. First of all, you can change the barcode type at the top here, and as long as it's either the 1D or 2D barcode, no, actually you can change it. Change the barcode terminology from one to the other, symbology rather. The second thing is you can now select different background colors for the front and the back of the barcode, and the background of the barcode can actually be transparent. So if I take this barcode and I put it on top of something else, you can see that it's now blue with a transparent background, and that's pretty awesome. Back into the colors. Now when you click on Edit Colors, we now have the eyedropper color picker, which is added in this version, and you'll be able to go on any of your screens in any application that's currently open and grab the color, even if it's not in the Connect itself. And when you do that, there we go, and now we have it changed. Another thing that's new in Connect Designer, if we go take a look at the actually at the properties of a print section, there's a new section called numbering, or a new tab in the properties called numbering. This replaces the need to actually have your control scripts that changes these things within a script. So you don't need to restart page numbering or not inside of your control scripts. You can do it directly here. And when you have your page numbering, you can also use Roman numerals and lowercase Roman numerals and alphabetic, and all of these are available. And you can also add a prefix on these, whichever you prefer. All of these information, all of these properties were previously in scripts, and now they're not. So if I add a new box here and I added the page number, we can see that it does indeed change. Should be the contrary here. And there we go. Back into preview. Page I of XLII. I don't read I don't read Roman numerals. So there we go. Now, next option that we have, let's see. Yes, autosave and backup. Yes, autosave and backup has been added. If we go in the preferences and we go under save, you can now enable automatic save at a certain interval. So let's say I put 5 minutes and up to 10 files. It can either be in the same directory as the file or a separate one. The file needs to be saved first. So if I save the file here right now on my desktop, in a couple of minutes, it's going to create a backup copy, and we can come back to that. Remind me if I forget at the end of the stream to show you the autosave. And then we have another thing which is related to the workflow tool. I'm going to create a new file here, and just because I need to have a nice web template. So let me start with the Capture on the Go kitchen sink right here and finish that. I'm also going to open workflow because I do need that to be open and functional. And the option as I'm opening this is called Get Job Data File on Submit. What this will do essentially is that when you have a form data, such as this one here, which is Capture on the Go, and you have your Submit button, in previous versions, in order to get the data from that form and be able to debug on it, you absolutely had to send that to a device and then create an HTTP process inside of workflow. And once you had done that, then you could debug, save the file, and then load it inside that same process and then continue. Now what happens is when you have workflow in the background and functioning, and you go under the live preview inside your HTML document, click on Submit, what it does is that it actually interacts with a kind of a backdoor, a secret process in workflow on that same machine, and it will grab that information and send it back to Designer, where you can save it, and now you could either open it in the Datamapper or reload it directly into workflow or do whatever. Now, if I open this file, I can show you that it is indeed all of the information. Of course, it's all blank because I didn't actually fill anything, but you have that here, and you can use it to debug or to datamap. So that one is great. The next option, the rest of the Designer is mostly scripting updates, and I personally think it's really awesome that we have some of these new features. Inside of any of the scripts, you now have access to some of the, let's say, more basic, not base, but body, as I'm typing, some of the more basic aspects of ECMA script 6. If you've ever done JavaScript in the browser very recently, or you've worked with Node, you might know how ES6 is pretty awesome, and it simplifies a lot of code that you may have in some situations. Now, there is not a whole lot of ES6 going on. It's not the whole thing. There's no map reduce, there's no filter, but we did start off with a couple of good things. So let me just, my page that I had disappeared because 1.5 is now released. Let me see if I still have it in my cache here so that I can show you the actual page that I wanted to. All right, so let me open that in a browser. I'm sorry, I did not expect that page to disappear. Essentially, what you have new, and I will show you right now, is you have access to block scoping, you have access to const. You also have access to a lot of string, number, math, and array functions. So actually, array.find is there. I was wrong. We just don't have map, which I love. But you can do string starts with, string includes, you can do trims, you can check whether something is an integer, parse into an integer, a bunch of things that the scripters in the midst of us will start appreciating as being awesome. So if a string ends with .com, looks like a URL with no attributes. The other thing in regards to scripting is that you now have a bit of code completion for the browser scripts, meaning if I go back into Designer and I look at Capture on the Go, for example, when you have jQuery, it will start actually auto-completing. So if I do document dot, for example, then I get all the things that I could get in a document. So we're starting to look a bit more like a useful IDE in the sense that the code completion is now from the browser side. So I can get element by ID, get element by class names, do all of the things that I would be able to do. And I do believe that this should work if I do body dot. I should also have any jQuery auto completion if jQuery is loaded in the web section for which I'm editing the JavaScript. So you need jQuery in order for all of those to appear. Again, control space to force that to appear if you need it to. And I think that's pretty cool. Couple of small, actually one last thing inside of the API. I don't have any examples, but the control script API will now let you clone some of your sections, meaning you can clone the section and attribute different variables to it, so you can duplicate an instance of the section and then run it to duplicate as many times as you want. Right, okay, so now we have the small bug fixes in Designer, small things that were that are now, well, fixed. I'm repeating myself, I know. Welcome to Livestream. First thing is, on print outputs, repeating background images are now fixed. So if you do a background URL with a repeat in CSS, it will now work for print outputs. Still works for email, and it still works for web, of course. The size of PDF attachments when sending via email or outputting PDF is now resolved. So those are the two very important fixes we have. All right, now on to Datamapper, data mapping configurations. Oh, sorry, two last things inside of here. Send Capture on the Go test no longer requires a data mapping configuration to be loaded. So if you're sending a blank form, you can now do that. And if you have email and you do send email, that no longer requires a data mapping configuration either. Okay, now we can go to Datamapper. Let me see. I had files somewhere. Open recent. Pretty sure they're here. XML data mapping. Okay. So in the Datamapper, there are not a whole lot of new things. However, the first thing that we have, if I clear this out a little bit, is we have a new step that is called the multiple condition step. The multiple condition step is essentially a switch case statement. So the easiest use case for this is if, for example, you have a marketing email campaigns, and for some of these campaigns you have specific rules that you want to apply, then you could simply say, well, if the case itself, which is the condition here, what it will actually compare it with. That's, let's say, switch on a specific value or switch on whatever. And then each case is compared to the multiple condition step as to being true or false. And it goes from left to right. So the first true that it encounters will be executed. The rest are ignored. And if all of these are false, it will execute the default branch. So in any of these cases, if you add actions, if you add extractions, they will only occur inside of these specific cases. It will not, or the data will not be fulfilled in the other cases or in the default if there's nothing. So that's the biggest feature in the data mapping configuration tool. The other thing that we have, which is seems minor, but it actually is a lifesaver, a time saver. in the default format settings. The default formats are like this. It loads the locale on the system and then shows it to you. But when you change it and you apply and you reload a new template or the existing template, it will actually use these default formatting settings. For example, I already had the no $ and no comma for the 1000 separator. And if I extract this here and I change it to be, actually, let me put that outside of the condition. If I extract this and I change it to currency, it actually did save when I modified that. In normal situations where you don't mess up the demo, so when you save, you apply, and then you close and reopen the new template, then it will actually use these settings instead of having to recreate them all the time. So now my total is properly extracted. And if I extract another one, I think, same thing. So you really do need to close the template and reopen it to take in these changes. Okay, so that's it for Datamapper. There's not a whole lot that's new, but these two little things will actually be very useful. This switch case statement, beautiful in some use cases, and if you're part of that, it's great. Right, now on to, as I'm still in the Designer Datamapper software, I'll go back here and go through what we have in the output module. Let me just create a new print context. There we go. And when I go under print preset output creation, there are a couple of things here. So when you have a data mapping, when you have an output preset, normally in order to see the results of this output preset, you would need to create it, save it, then do file print, and then select this option, this output preset to generate, or use a proof print. Now all you need to do is to click on that preview button, and what it does is it generates a PDF preview straight here for you. It just uses the current settings that you have put in the output creation. Now it won't output anything because I don't have anything on the page, but this is essentially what you'll get. It'll create an output of up to 200 pages, the same as the soft proof, if I'm not mistaken. And you don't need to save a file or reopen it, etc. All right, great. Next thing is we have the top left offset in the imposition. So when you have cut and stack imposition, if you're outputting to some of the, let's say you have an Avery sticker sheet or you have pre-printed media, previously it was not possible to create a left and top offset in order to move the whole thing from the top left corner. You could just select whatever went in between. Now you can apply a top and left offset, which is a feature that was requested in the past and now it has been implemented. Yay! Also, in terms of imposition, if I go back here and add the additional content, in all of these text, image, barcodes, and RMRs, when you go on, actually I think it might, yes, it is text. It has been requested a lot that we have the ability to add text on the imposition page, but not on each of the sections inside of it that are repeated. This is what this will do. Output once per sheet means when you have imposition, it will only output once with the selected orientation at the desired position, the text that you have, including all the fields and the metadata fields, the same as it did before, but it does once per sheet. I thought, oh yes, it is. It is available also for images, and it should also be available for, there you go, barcodes and OMR marks. You can customize these to only appear once when that option is checked. Last thing is in regards to inserter marks, and this is a little bit specific to the Pitney Bowes inserters, the HCF files that we provide. And I can't actually show you. I haven't been able to test this because I don't have an inserter in this office. But essentially, the two new options are here: the draw hotspot and reverse mark order. These are the two new things that have been introduced in this version. We also have support for match code. That is a number that's incremented per envelope that's encoded in a few marks in the OMR. So this is specifically for Pitney Bowes and the the inserter mark settings for these inserters. All right, and last but not least, I do believe, one last one. I really do like to have my head in this and forget a lot of things. Extra data here is a field that you will be able to toggle it in the future. It's just that the icon was not finalized, but that will be in the next update. Extra data is an automatically added field that is only available as readable in the designer and is not present in the Datamapper. Why? Because it is meant to be enhanced or to accept external data from other applications. What I mean by this is if you do execute data mapping in the workflow, that extra data field is available in the metadata, and you can then fill it up with any string information. There's only one field, so the best way to actually add data to that is to simply use JSON. So you put in a JSON string in there, and you'll be able to read it directly. All right, on to workflow, the automation tool. Let me close that. So our automation tool has a couple of pretty awesome things that we actually want to show. The first and foremost, the biggest feature, drum roll, is the Data Repository Manager. The Data Repository Manager is essentially a place where you can store string values in a tabular form. What I mean by this is think about this as kind of an Excel spreadsheet with multiple sheets at the bottom, or something like a database like Microsoft Access. It's not exactly that, but it has the same basic feature set that you would look for in these. Now, let's say I completely reset this database. I'm going to clear it completely and start over. You start off with this, just that. And inside of the Data Repository Manager, you create groups, which are kind of like tables. So if I do sessions, for example, I can add keys, which are columns inside of the group. So session ID, and I would add username and first name, and you might see where I'm going with that. Product codes. You could use that for session management using HTTP server inputs and just read the session ID that is stored in a cookie, which you do have access inside of the XML envelope, and then load the session, do all the security you would need to do, like checking IPs and stuff. But basically, actually, let me put in IP address, because this is what we would normally do. And then you'd have access to these informations throughout of your process. So you can have as many groups as you want. So if I add users, if I add products, if I add whatever. Now, the reason I say it's not quite a database is that there are not a whole lot of interaction tools right now for the Data Repository Manager. It's not meant as a way to store all of the information or to replace a database that you already have. That is not the point. The point is to store some information as you need it in the process. A couple of example use cases. The sessions is one example. Loading some user data is another example. Having print jobs. So a job log, and in the job log, you could have the username of the person that printed it. You could have the number of pages that you enter in here, and you'll be able to fill these in as you go. So once you have a repository structure, by the way, these are only strings. You can't use other data types. These are only string values, just like job infos, just like local variables, just like metadata. String only, at least for the time being. Once you have that data repository and you want to add to it, you have the push to repository properties, the push to repository action task. And then all you need to do is to select what you want to insert into. So let's say I do job logs and I do a data location. Actually, I don't have anything, but let's say I do variables job info3, because it contains the username of the person that sent the job via LPD. This is where I would do, and the number of pages could be a metadata location with the total number of pages in the job in a PDF. And then as you go, each time this is executed, a new row is added to the repository, and you will presumably be able to retrieve it. At the moment, the only way to retrieve information from the repository is any field that is variable data, so all of these nice maroon fields. Right-click and do get repository value in order to get a static value, or get repository location in order to get a dynamic load. And this is using the lookup function. That is a new syntax for doing data selections that is, I believe, documented in the user guide. But essentially, these options are what group you want to pull from, so like job log, the field that you want to retrieve, such as username, for example, the field that you want to look up, so the one that you want to actually use for the lookup, and then the actual value. And that, of course, can be dynamic. You can do a lookup and then just do either, you know, a field like this, job info, local variable, all of these. Well, normal data selections will work here. So that's for the actual push and lookup inside the data repository. Now, Data Repository Manager is more or less meant as a temporary cache. But it is stable. It doesn't empty itself. It doesn't clear itself unless you tell it to. So you can clear group data, which will remove all of the entries in here. And by the way, just so you see, when you're entering, you just have this, and then you can edit those afterwards. So these key sets are what you have in the group. If you clear group data, it only removes the key sets inside of this one. You can clear the whole repository and delete everything but keep the structure, which is a good way to reset the thing if it's only temporary data. And of course, clear repository, which deletes everything and resets it to 0. Check repository will verify the integrity, and any deleted keys. It's something about drive space. Deleted keys would still keep space inside of the blah, blah, blah. It just optimizes the repository and verifies that there's no corrupted data. And that is it for the Data Repository Manager, which I believe is the single greatest feature in 1.5. Honestly, I mean, the switch case is pretty good, pretty cool, but this is awesome. We'll use in a couple of implementations and demos in the future. Next up, we still don't have any questions. It's okay. I know there's probably, is it one person listening? Hi. The next feature that we want to take a look at in the workflow is HTTP server input, which has one little thing that's changed that might be very cool for you: the ability to add multiple actions inside of the HTTP action, as many as you want. And what happens is any of these actions will work and will trigger this process. So if you have multiple different URL endpoints that you want to send to the same process, you just use these. So the first one would be get, and then all the others would be aliases to the first one. So that's for the HTTP server input. Just you can alias the your HTTP action. Similarly, inside of the folder capture, you can now put multiple lists or multiple folders, and then it will capture the folder capture option. Folder capture will go and grab from all of these folders one after the other. And this is useful because sometimes your data can be on different drives as long as it's obviously the same type of file, and it's just because you have, let's say, a live system and a backup system that are on different network locations or different local locations. You want to capture from both inside of your processes. Just use this, multiple folder lists, and you can still, you can still capture files in subfolders for all of these. So have a lot of different locations for this folder capture. And this guy right here, treat as regular expression, we are talking about the mask. So you can say in the mask that you want any alphabetical or alphanumerical character anywhere between 1 to 10 .pdf. Or you can say, I want to have exactly 5 alphanumerical characters, a dash, and then any numbers plus PDF. Regular expressions, check this, and you have it. A very powerful way to capture files inside of a folder or multiple folders as we have now, and to make sure that it does not process specific types of files. Let me just remove, actually, doesn't matter if it creates it. Oh, I can't because it's not a drive that exists. All right, so I was just doing the example, but basically, this is something that you can do. Awesome. Sure, on the in the Connect Designer. And this is essentially the option that's called Use PHP Arrays. And, sorry, what Use PHP Arrays will do is it's actually a way to modify the way that the HTTP server input processes the information coming from an HTML form. So when you have post information that has been sent via HTTP, and this post information contains array inputs. And what I mean by that, I will actually open, where is that? I had it open somewhere, and I'm going to try to find it while I do this. But essentially what it does is when you have a HTML, come on. I'm gonna get it for you guys because I know that it's very important that you see this. It is actually pretty awesome. I'm gonna take this window and go on my thing here, and I'm sorry, I really wanted to. Come on, is it this one? Nope. PHP Array. I'll get it. I'm getting there. PHP Array will support a format inside of the post information that is structured. Previously, the XML coming from HTTP was always flat, meaning it didn't have the structure that you see here. Does it show? Yeah, basically. No, it doesn't. So what it does is that now when you have multiple values and within those you have them defined as arrays, it will structure them properly inside of the XML. So you can very easily execute data mapping on this, and you won't have to use XSLT, and you won't have to use scripts in order to modify the data so that it's readable in Connect Datamapper. I mean, it's a small option. It looks really unassuming, but it is very, very powerful, especially if you're doing capture on the go and your template has a dynamic number of lines. That is something that you really, really, really want to use. You're gonna want this. And the option has to be enabled in order for the post send test data, the button that I had in Connect Designer in HTTP. The use PHP array must be checked and the service has to be started. So I just wanted to put that out there, that it's necessary. Oh, come on, stop opening. All right. Now, the create web and email now lists sections. So if I go in here and I use create email content, the only difference is here the section. I don't actually have any templates loaded because this is a new demo machine, but if you have multiple sections in the content here, either in the email template or in the web template, you can select it using the drop down, or you can do it dynamically. So it can be section using a variable, or you can do it using the drop down. That works for both create email content and create job. Now, my throat is a little rough, and I want to know if any of you guys have questions. I will give it a couple of minutes while I read actually something that was sent to me, and I just want to see whether or not there's anything missing. Capture on the go. Yeah, there's not a lot of specific capture on the go options. Actually, literally the only option that I've shown you yet, the PHP array and the test, the submit button that returns the XML. That is the two things that I already showed you. There is a way to support blank forms inside the capture on the go application. There is also a way to share data between multiple different forms, not multiple different forms, sorry. If you have more than one instance of the same form and you send that directly to Capture on the Go, it can share some of these resources. And I believe that this would be somewhere in the properties. No, could be in send to Capture on the Go. So let me load that. Or is it in workflow? Let me check if I can find it actually, because the send to Capture on the Go is a pretty awesome thing. It is not there. I will probably post a how-to on learn.objectivelearn.com, our training website, in order to show how all of this works. Because right now I don't have all of the data appropriate to tell you how this all works. Let me see if love you, get job data, that's fine, that works. And okay, all right. So essentially, if I go back in here and I do this and I show my face, I don't see any questions because I don't know that there's a lot of people connected right now. And I understand that this is the first live stream that we ever do, and I think that the link that I sent wasn't actually working, so it created a new live stream, so I'm sorry about that. The recording will be available though. So I hope you learned something new today. If you have any questions, comments, something that you want me to talk about in some of the new videos that are going to come up on the Connect with Evie channel, don't hesitate to comment on any of the videos, not on this one because it's live. And you can also reach me on Twitter at Connect with Evie, or send me a message, or any of those. Like the video if you like it, subscribe if you want to be advised of any new videos that come out, or any new live stream events, which I will redo in the future because I love to do this. And as always, see you in a few clicks.